Okay, you've heard it before, and there's a pretty good chance you're going to hear it again. Content is king of the castle. That may or may not be true, but content is definitely a super important part of any digital marketing strategy that a law firm might care to adopt. But there's a problem, which is we're just not very good at it. So let's talk about one way we can make our content more effective. My name is Chris Hargraves. I'm from digitalmarketingforlawyers.com, and this is Digital Marketing Mastery. I'm getting a bit dramatic there with my vocal intonation. I really should stop doing that. I'm just trying to make things a little bit more interesting to listen to, especially if you're not seeing my beautiful face on the video version of this. I want to talk about content, and in particular, I want to talk about making your content more human. And in this particular case, I'm distinguishing human from lawyer-like. Not that those two things are mutually exclusive, but a lot of the time, the content we have a tendency to produce it's sort of robotic in its nature. It's like someone stripped all the personality straight out of the content, tossed it in the bin, and what you got left with is what gets published. And there are a number of reasons for that, one of which is we just kind of never learned to do it. We never train ourselves to do it. We're never trained to do it. We're just asked to write articles. And when we're asked to write articles, we go straight into law school academic paper mode. And the consequence is that we write an academic paper. And as you probably know, for the vast majority of people, academic papers are not very interesting to read. So how can we fix that? Tip number one. I think we need to purge out of our head, if not entirely, at least a little bit, the primacy of this thought that our content needs to be professional for a number of reasons. One, what is professional and what isn't professional is a fairly wide scope, and everyone has in their own mind. What we mean by professional has a tendency not to necessarily be true in an objective sense. That is, if we went beyond the parameters that we had defined for ourselves about professional, we would probably still be professional in the eyes of 95% of the people that we were directing our content towards. But the main problem is, as soon as we go, my article has to be professional, we go straight into the academic soup that I mentioned before, because professional academia sort of gets smushed together in our brain because that's what we learn to do at law school. We think professional, we think formal, we think suit and tie, and we think good posture, which I definitely don't have, which you can't tell if you're listening to the podcast version of this. But professional, okay, it's important. It's a thing. I'm not going to say you should discard it entirely, but our desire to cling to it in our content has a tendency to ruin our content in the process. So if we can park the concept of our content needing to be professional, it's a pretty good chance it will still end up sufficiently professional, but it might fix some of these humanity issues that we're having. The second thing I wanted to suggest is don't be afraid to be funny or to tell a story or to just go outside the boundaries of pure education. Now, the vast majority of content that lawyers are going to be producing is this sort of likable expert content, isn't it? It's telling people about your area of expertise in some way. It doesn't have to be that, but I know it's going to be that for many, many people. And it's going to be sharing that content in a way that is informative. But while you are being informative, you don't have to be stodgy simultaneously. You can tell a funny story. You can use funny names if you're giving practical examples or case studies or something like that. You can offer a little bit of humor into the process. Think about a documentary that you might watch. Although a documentary is designed to inform fundamentally about something, it is also designed to entertain. So the job of the producer is not simply to provide you with information. If it was, all they would need to do is have someone sitting in front of a single camera, reading a script, providing you the information. But that's not why we watch documentaries. We watch them because they are simultaneously informative and entertaining. So think about how you can offer a slightly greater degree of entertainment factor while simultaneously being informative. And that might just be an injection of a sentence here and there, or the use of a couple of anecdotes or stories or something to liven up your content and make it connect with people, because stories help connect people to things. Jokes help connect people to things. It just lightens their mood and it gives them a more positive emotional response to your article. And the emotional response to your article is just as important as the intellectual response to your article. Okay, these two things have to go hand in hand if you are going to attempt to produce a higher quality content, by which I mean a content that has a greater prospect of resonating, to use an awful marketing word, with your audience. So don't be afraid of humor. The last one, and because 3 points is a good number and I'm going to make this too long if I go any longer, is don't be afraid to share a little bit of vulnerability as part of the process. And again, this comes back to what I've mentioned only 6,942 times, which is the known, liked, and trusted factor. It's this likability stuff that we're trying to inject into our content. So don't be afraid to share some of your humanity. You know, the other day I was procrastinating because I was supposed to be folding washing. My 3 kids particularly enjoy X, Y, and Z. Now, I recognize that everyone will have their security and privacy sort of boundaries there, but the majority of us don't mind sharing a little bit about ourselves, because trust has degrees of reciprocity. If you give some trust, even if it's in this sort of environment like what I'm doing now, speaking to a camera and a microphone, you can give a little of yourself and people will find elements of connection. Okay, it comes back similar to the politics question that I had not too long ago. Should you share your politics? Everyone was afraid of that. But if you do, it will create an opportunity for connection. And that it's that connection. People see the similarities. You know, their kids play the same sports. They have kids, whereas you have kids. That is something of a connection. They went to a similar school. They had a similar experience. They did a similar thing. They enjoy something. Their mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunties, former roommate once had a similar event happen to them. Those degrees of connection can offer just a heightened degree of prospect, of chance for your article to be a meaningful experience for them, as they get both the information that they were after, but also the slight degree of entertainment and greater trust that they were after. Okay, that's it. 3 fairly straightforward tips. Loosen your grip on the word professional just enough. Don't be afraid to inject a little bit of humor or a story or an anecdote or something to lighten the mood of your article a little bit. And don't be afraid to share. Be just enough vulnerable, a little bit vulnerable. Vulnerable sufficiently. Let those barriers down just a little bit, both in your written work and in your video work and in your podcasting work and whatever the case may be. That's all for today. Head over to digitalmarketingforlawyers.com if you want more. But other than that, I will see you next time.